Deepak Chumani. I would request Dr. Pallavi Roy ma'am to kindly invite and introduce our speaker, Dr. Deepak Chumani.
Okay. Thank
Is
you.
Dr. Pallavi Roy ma'am here?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Am I
ma'am. Please.
audible?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
thank
Please
you.
take over and
It is
introduce
my
our star
great,
speaker.
It is my great privilege to introduce Dr. Professor Deepak Jumani. He is a senior sexual health physician and counselor, honorary assistant professor of medicine, sexual health, Sir JJ Group of Hospitals and Grant Government Medical College, Mumbai. He is consultant sexologist, Mumbai Police Hospital, a course director, Fellowship of Clinical Sexology, MUHS, editor, International Journal of Councils, ex-chairman, IMA's Initiative for Sexual Health, author of the bestseller, Sex Has No Expiry Date. Welcome, Professor Dr. Deepak Kumar. Now, mic is yours.
Thank you. Sex is a long subject where nature and cultures collide. Can we navigate through the mysteries of sex, or can we develop some sexual intelligence? And sex is what we do, and sexuality is what we are. Sexuality is the central part of our human beings. It includes biological, physical, gender identity, gender orientation, and it's influenced by so many factors. When we talk about spirituality, what comes in our mind is, how do we go to the temples, we pray, we chant, we recite mantras, we offer puja, flowers, etc. Now, what is the connect between these two? Is it a real theology, or is it something which is antagonisting each other? Let's see in this next 20 minutes. I am going to tell you my concepts as a sexologist of the relationship between sexuality and spirituality. I thank Neeraj Bhai, Alpesh Bhai, and all those who are gathered here to endorse my understanding of this truth of life and relationships. With prayers to God, and I thank my teachers, Professor Dr. O.P. Kapoor, Prakash Kothari, and Dr. Shashank Joshi, and I beseech them to bless me always. Is sexuality and spirituality aligned or antagonistic to each other? Or do they interfere with each other? Or does sexual pleasure interfere in development of spirituality? Or do we need to suppress sexual energies or sexual pleasure, which doesn't allow us to evolve to spiritual evolution? We know about monks, we know about nuns, they are celibate. Celibacy is definitely considered as a good virtue. So in the pursuit of sexual pleasure, are we in compliance with spirituality, or are we deviating from spirituality? This is a defining question. Let me tell you a small story.
आइए, आज आपको एक कहानी सुनाता। एक बार एक नेत्रहीन व्यक्ति गया मंदिर ईश्वर के दर्शन प्राप्त करने। अब जब वहां उपस्थित लोगों को ये ज्ञात हुआ कि ये व्यक्ति नेत्रहीन है, तो कुछ लोगों ने उसका उपहास उड़ाना प्रारंभ कर दिया। जिसकी स्वयं की दृष्टि ही नहीं, क्या करने आया होगा? कदाचित ईश्वर से शिकायत करने आया होगा कि क्यों आपने मुझसे मेरी दृष्टि छीन ली। सभी बातों से उस नेत्रहीन व्यक्ति ने स्वयं को पीड़ित नहीं होने दिया। वो मुस्कुराया। उसने केवल एक बात कही, माना कि मेरे भाग्य ने मुझसे मेरी दृष्टि छीन ली, किंतु मैं अभागा नहीं, क्योंकि मेरा ईश्वर वो मुझे देख सकता है। स्मरण रखिएगा, दृष्टि नहीं दृष्टिकोण आवश्यक। यदि आपका दृष्टिकोण शुभ, तो अशुभ में भी शुभ स्वयं दिखने लगता है और मन प्रसन्न.
Let us see what is spirituality.
What is the true meaning of spirituality? Well, the word spirit is understood in very different ways. Some people think that spirit means the ghosts, the bodiless beings which are there, the beings which are there, very dark beings, and so they call it spirits. And in Christian ideology, they have good spirits and they have evil spirits. So the good spirits are called the angels, and the bad spirits are called the demons. So many people think that when anybody says spirituality, then it means something to do with these evil or good demons. But that's not the truth. The spirit word should be taken as the essence of something. So the spirituality should be understood as where you are keen to learn what is the essence of your own being, what is the essence of this universe, what is the essence of God, if there is any, and what is the essence of my own presence. I am existing. What does it mean? What am I in a reality?
Let us see what Sri Sri Ravi Shankar says about sexuality.
Science means what? Systematic, logical understanding which leads to something which is beyond the known arena, beyond the arena of known. So here, science is exploring into the unknown through the known. Spirituality is exactly the same. That's why spirituality is where all religions connect. All religion merge in one point, that is spirit.
How does one engage with the world without losing his or her spiritual perspective? Let us see what Sadhguru tells us.
Spirituality is not a certain perspective. Because once you call it a perspective, every individual has a right to have his own perspective. That's going to be one big mess. Truth is not something that you can interpret the way you want and somebody else can interpret the way he wants. Truth cannot be interpreted, it can only be misinterpreted. You can become it, or you don't.
Let me tell you what I feel about spirituality and sexuality. Spirituality is the aspect of humanity that refers to the way individuals seek and express meaning and purpose, and the way they experience their connectedness to the moment, to self, to others, to nature, and to the significant or every sacred. In fact, spirituality means any experience that is thought to bring the experience into contact with the divine. It's in spirit, that's spirituality. And there has to be a factor of love, which is a state of being in spirituality always. There has to be a factor of gratitude. There has to be a factor of trust in that. Spirituality is nothing but you connect yourself to the spirit with love. What are the difference between spirituality and religion? Spirituality means there has to be love, truth, and gratitude. It has to be purification of mind. It has to be cultivation of ethical values. It is not praying. It is developing a prayer heart. It is not decorating your temples or going and putting flowers, etc. You need to decorate your inner self with good qualities. And if you are religious, it just pleases the society. But if you are spiritual, it pleases your own self and the divine. The four goals in life we all know are Kama, Artha, Dharma, and Moksha. But when it comes to the true sense, these goals have reversal order. You know, it is Moksha, which is the liberation, which is the first thing, which is the prime thing which we all aim for. Then Dharma is virtuous living, which we all should all should orient ourselves towards achieving freedom. And artha means collecting money, possessions, etc., which is good. But it should not be the agenda of the soul completely, because money and possessions are just bindings. And sometimes if it is more, it has wrong effects. And the lowest is kama, which is a desire, which is also good. But if it lacks a spiritual component, it vanishes without a trace. Sexuality is nothing but a capacity of sexual feelings. It's your orientation, it's the activity, what you do. Is sexual energy the same as spiritual energy? Because spiritual energy comes from pure consciousness, and it is the creative energy of the universe. Without that, you and I would not have been alive. Now, sexual energy is also the creative energy, because we are all born out of it. And because that, you and I would not have been existing, and it manifests as charm, as love, as attraction, as infatuation, as intimacy, so that there is a merging of consciousness and the emergence of new life. Therefore, the same sexual energy is the same as spiritual energy. What are the principles of sexual energy? We must understand that sexual energy is the primal and creative energy of the universe. When sexual energy is nourished, when we feel attracted or aroused or awakened or alert or passionate or interest or inspire. Now, inspiration means in spirits or creativity or enthusiasm. Enthusiasm means entheos, which means God, with God, or excitement. Sexual energy is definitely at work. If we nourish these states which we are in with our attention and infuse an emotional component to it and experience it with joy, and if we keep it alive in our awareness, then we become passionate lovers for life. This is divinity or spirituality. Sexual desires are sacred and chaste. Without it, there would be no life. Therefore, the suppression of sexual energy is false, ugly, and unchaste. When you suppress all problems related to sexual neurosis, deviancies, misbehavior, violence, abuse can be traced to resistance, suppression, and repression, not to the sexual urges themselves. If we are allowed to discover our urges, desires, and emotions without outside inhibitions, they would not go to extremes. Extremism is only results of suppression or repression. In sex, as in all areas of life, resistance is born out of fear, and all resistance ultimately is mental, because it implies judgment against what is being felt. Sex becomes a problem when it gets mixed with the hidden emotions such as shame, fear, guilt, or anger. During sexual union, there is union between the flesh and the spirit. Sex is profane, it's sacred. If sexual union leads to joy and creativity and new life, it is coming together, and that is divine. Bliss, carefulness, playfulness are the essence of sex. Any relationship that comes from joy-giving, playfulness ultimately leads to ecstasy. But any relationship that is based on need or selfish desire is ultimately doomed or failure. How to improve our sexual experiences? To improve our sexual experiences, we need to get rid of expectations. And also, if you want to have a good quality of life, we need to get rid of the need for explanations. The three questions which we should always ask, which we should never ask. How am I performing? How am I doing? You know how you're performing. So don't ask about it. How am I feeling? You know how you feel when you have sex. You definitely feel good. So there is no question of asking. And last is, don't have to ask, do you love me? If you ask, do you love me? There's a feeling of insecurity in you. There is a fear in you. Sexual intimacy is the road to chest and experience to the true freedom. It has to be value-based if it is to transcend. Sex is a means of escaping a little ego or little self. It is many people's only experience to meditations. In fact, in many languages, the word for orgasm is little death, timelessness, transcendence, union between lover and beloved, union between the seer and the scenery, between observer and the observed, which is ultimate reality, and there is no separation. Without values, we become spiritually bankrupt. Sexual fulfillment occurs when the experience comes from playfulness instead of need. When sex is used to fulfill needs, it's called addiction. When sex comes from playfulness, it's ecstasy. True intimacy is definitely sacred and divine. Soul is our core consciousness, which is in seed form, contains karmic memory and desire. So when there is union between flesh and flesh, between subtle body and subtle body, and between soul and soul, we realize that sexual energy is a sacred energy. And when we have restored this sexual experience to the realm of the sacred, our world will become chaste and divine. This is true intimacy, and believe me, friends, it's timeless and ageless. At the peak of sexuality, you are spiritual, you are vulnerable, you are intimate, you are egoless, you are defenseless, you are spontaneous, you are joyful, you are carefree. There is a sense of timelessness. And these characteristics are also the characteristics in true nature of your spirit. Hence, sexual energy is also called spiritual energy. What is Ras Leela? My last 2-3 slides. The Ras Leela, which we see, is overflowing outpouring of the primal energy as it is divided between man and woman. Coming together, they feel as light as feathers and weightless. Ras is not an ordinary dance on a small scale. It really represents the whole universal dance of creation that since eternity goes on and on. It epitomizes the everlasting drama and making and unmaking of the universe. Look at the ecstasy, look at the timelessness, look at the freedom, look at the joy. Spirituality and sexuality is a bond that dignifies intimacy. Sex is a sacred synchronicity of souls. Embrace the act of sex as worship and consider your partner as sacred representation of divine. Exercise your devotion muscle and trash the wrong belief systems into nothingness. If you do that, spiritual evolution is unstoppable. We are not human beings with spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings with human experience. Thank you all for being my light and love. I end my talk here.
Thank you so much, sir. This was so beautiful. We really enjoyed it. It was something